All right. Make sure we're recording. Okay, so this has kind of been a hot topic: classroom management strategies. Let me just double check. I'm gonna check one thing. Okay. Yeah, so this is someone recently said this, and I love this. Said that they felt like teaching Kidzrock is like herding cats, and I've tried all different strategies over the years, and I have found that yes, this age group can be a challenge, but you can make progress with these kids. So let's hop into it. Why do kids act out? And my wife, who's a therapist, has helped me over the years understand this question. But here are four different reasons why, and you can probably add to this list: anxiety, status, the child's needs not being met, and expectations are unclear. So the anxiety can just come from, a kid coming into Kidzrock or junior Rockerz and just not really kind of sure where they fit in. I mean, social anxiety, we all experience that at some point. And as adults, when we go into a new social situation, we have certain ways of coping with that anxiety. 4, 5, 6-year-olds don't have those skills yet. So just being sensitive to that kids are coming in and many of them are experiencing some type of anxiety. Status. Kids act out to achieve status. The class clown gets instant status, and we all want to know where we fit in the social order. And once you, and that is really how I'm defining status, is understanding your place in the social order. So a lot of way that kids can get recognition amongst their peers is status. And just think back to when you were a kid and the way you behaved in group settings. I was a bit of a ham, a bit of a cut up, because I just wanted to, to get that recognition. Needs not being met. That's a little bit, trickier.
I have a family of 3, and I couldn't imagine three or more kids, unless it's like, look, you guys are all doing piano and all doing hockey, and that's it. We're not going anywhere.
Only a Canadian would reference hockey. Good job, Adam. Very good. Right. So it's,
but yeah, I'd say either way, like if you're calling around, for sure, come in for the trial lesson, just kind of get an idea, and then you can kind of judge. We have the ability to do some virtual lessons, so it is something that we've looked into, but there are some stumbling blocks with it. I just don't think is as good, but it can work. So it's, but obviously, like, it's the way I kind of look at it is, if you come in and see what we do, and then pick which one you like better and go from there. It's not a hard sale.
Hey, is that Adam? I think Adam thinks he's muted. That's what I think.
Yeah, for that's if you're going to register. So if you want,
hold on. Let me
give me a call or shoot me a text with this, because it is my cell phone.
Adam's making a sale.
I can give you some times, or I can send you the link too. I do have a program.
I'll take care of Adam. Just muted him. All right, we'll see when we get Adam back on if he made that sale. And then expectations aren't clear. It's so important with your Kidzrock classes that you're really laying out for them what your expectations are. Before I do want to dig into that, but does anyone have any questions about this? Anxiety, status, needs not being met, expectations aren't clear. Can anyone add to this? What do you think, Jen?
I want to add to it.
Hey, there she is.
I think boredom is a huge one that we're seeing right now. I was actually just talking to one of our teachers about it. We have one little girl who keeps saying, I'm bored. And she's just not being challenged enough. She needs to not be on piano and needs to be on drums.
Okay, good. I'm gonna save that. I wrote that down, boredom, and if I don't bring that back, give me a little kick under the table.
Okay.
a virtual kick. Anyone else?
Yeah, I've got one. Kids act out when they're tired and hungry.
Ooh. Okay, so that's huge. And most of us are running our Kidzrock classes at 4, maybe even 5 o'clock. So that's a really good, and we're catching kids at the end of the day. So and there's really nothing that you can, do about that. I mean, you can, remind the kids, hey, before you come in, be sure to use the restroom and get something to eat. Anyone else want to add to that? Hey, Adam, did you make that sale? Adam's going to have to get back to us. Wait, hold on. What's this? Someone raising their hand. Wait, hold on here. Hold on. I want to open up this chat. Ooh, there we go. The chat. I didn't have that open. Okay, so we'll get into expectations. Let's look at next thing is your perceptions. I got a note about boredom. As the instructor, our perception is usually when kids are acting out is that they're being disruptive when they are being disruptive, and that they're being disrespectful and they're challenging your authority. I would say that kids don't intend to be disruptive. They don't intend to be disrespectful, and some kids do deliberately challenge your authority. And so by reminding kids that their behavior is being disruptive and is being disrespectful gives them a certain, helps them kind of understand the impact that their behavior is having. I'm just curious, has anyone ever dealt with this where they really feel like a kid's challenging their authority? All right, good. And you got some good kids. So I think we internalize, when kids are acting up in class, we internalize it a certain way. And if we can just remind ourselves is that no, what's happening is the child's experiencing anxiety. They're trying to establish their status. Their needs aren't being met. And you got to figure that out. Like, why aren't they being met? And what do I need to do? Or perhaps their expectations of what's expected of them are unclear. What many of us do in the heat of the moment is we say, hey, stop banging on that drum. Hey, get your hands off that kid. That's not the time to lay out your expectations because the chaos is breaking out. Defining expectations it's more effective to do in another setting, which I'm going to get to in a minute. Okay, so it's important not to take it personally that these kids aren't disrespecting you, is that they're having usually some type of anxiety. Now, if a kid is challenging your authority, that's another problem, and we're going to get to that. Okay, strategy number 1, visual schedule. I love this. So a visual schedule is where you write up a schedule with the time frame and a drawing and drawing. So for example, if you have a dry erase board in your classroom, to say 4 o'clock, and then next underneath it write 4:15, and then beneath that write 4:30, and then next to 4 o'clock you draw a really quick kind of drum to indicate that it's gathering drum, and then at 4:10 or 4:15 you do a quick drawing of guitars to indicate they're going to play a song. And then at 4:30, you write a picture of a kid singing with, eighth notes coming out of his mouth, indicate that they're going to have singing. And then maybe at 4:40, you draw a picture of, a mom and a dad, meaning the parents are going to come in. And assign jobs to the kids, that the kids are going to be your assistants or timekeepers. So you say, okay, Adam, from 4 to 4:10, we're going to do gathering drum. And your job, Adam, is I need you to be my assistant. You need to let me know at 4:10 when it's time for us to switch. And so at 4:10, Adam raises his hand and goes, hey, Dave, it's 4:10. Okay, great. Emily, I want you now. It's now 4:10. We're going to work on our first song. And maybe you have Adam go up to the board and draw an X over the gathering drum. Okay, Emily, I want you now to be my assistant. And at 4:20, 4:30, you're going to let us know when we're done with our song. And then at 4:20, Emily goes up. She lets me know that, it's 4:20, and I'm just realizing what 4:20 means. So, it happens, and you take a marker, and Emily crosses that off. And then show that off to the parents at the end. Any questions about that? Or does anyone do something like that?
Yeah, just one question. Aren't they a bit young to know time? 4, 5, and 6 can't really tell time.
Great question. I always had digital clocks.
Oh yeah.
And so the kids, maybe in Canada, you guys are old school. I don't know.
We don't have digital clocks here, so that you to talk to Adam. We're just playing hockey. So we have sundials on the rink outside.
Right.
-40 when it's snowing. So
my kids are looking at the clock all the time to find out when it's over, so they know how to read the clocks.
Right. And you know what? And if you have an old school clock, you can say, because it's funny you say that, we did have, proper clocks in the Kidzrock room for a while. And we'd say, okay, when that hand is on this, it means it's 4:10. And the kids would obsess. Oh, the kid who had that job, so this kind of goes back to doing this. This gets back to, this helps with their anxiety, and it gives them status. They're a helper now. They're no longer just a kid in the class. They're the assistant. And it can also, then the kids fight over who's going to be your helper that day. So if you can be like, look, in order to have this job, you've got to show me that you can be a team player. Okay, and then, show it off to the parents at the end. Okay, parents, here's what we did today. Here's the schedule. We had 3 timekeepers. Who was our first timekeeper? It was Adam. Great. And then we had Emily, and then Alex. So the parents love that, because they're like, wow, this teacher is teaching with purpose, and this teacher's got a plan. Let's move on. So that's strategy number 1, visual schedule. Alex, you're going to give me a thumbs up on that? You like that idea? All right. 2 thumbs up. Strategy 2, earn a point. Create opportunities for everyone in the band to earn a point. Keep score. If a child, so yeah, here's how they earn points is, I'll say, okay, guys, you're going to get, when it's time for everyone, when we're all going to try to play the song, it's an opportunity to earn a point. And if you focus and you don't bang on your instrument and you try to play with the band, you earn a point. And then you create this contest to see how many points the kids can earn. And you keep a score. You write each kid's name up on the board. So for example, Kidzrock, you go around and you review each part quickly with each kid, and you go, okay, guys, we're just going to try to vamp on A. You don't use the word vamp because they don't know what that means. But you say, guys, we're going to vamp on A. Here's your first opportunity to get a point. And then if everyone comes in right and they're trying, all they care is that kids try. It's when you get the kid go, you know what, I'm going to go Keith Moon on the drums and I'm just going to start banging. Now they're not trying, and that kid's not going to earn a point. The child doesn't earn a point, create another opportunity for them to catch up, for them to earn a point. So let's say, for example, Alex goes Keith Moon on us as we're trying to play this A. All right, everyone gets a point except Alex. Sorry, bud. But hey, Alex. And Alex starts to cry. Look, Alex, you'll get another opportunity to get caught up, okay? But in order to earn that point, you've got to listen. So I'm now laying out the expectation. Create a fictitious school record for points. Guys, the band that was here on Tuesday, each kid earned 8 points. Let's see if you guys can do that. And it means you guys are going to have to really focus. You're going to have to really listen to me, and we're going to have to work together as a team, laying out that expectation. Whoa, what happened there? If a student earns, X amount of points, say 8 points or however many you set for the day, they get a prize. And that prize is usually a sticker. And I pretty much always had it that every kid left with the sticker. But that kid, I would say, look, you're 2 points behind. So you gotta create opportunities to earn some points. I say, okay, Alex, here's a chance for you to earn a point. Here's the expectation. I need you to stay in your seat. And when I don't play until I say play. And don't bang on your strings. Just play the music in front of you. So I really like this one, earning a point. Okay, let's look at strategy 3, establish expectations. And Emily, I haven't forgot about boredom yet. You're on my mind here. Okay, here's some how to establish expectations. Establish 1 to 3 expectations or rules. Kids don't know what the word expectation means, but they understand what they know what a rule is. And the rules should be relevant to the challenge at hand. So what I don't like to do is start the class off with rules. All right, here are the rules in Kidzrock. That's not fun. That's boring. That feels too much like school. I only introduce a rule when it's relevant. So let's say, for example, Josh keeps hopping up out of his seat, running over to the cymbal and hitting it with his hand. Okay, we got a rule now. The rule is you have to stay in your seat at all times and keep your hands to yourself. So there's a rule, and I write it on the board. And I'll write, seat and hands. Stay in your seat, keep your hands to yourself. And then I'll have the students repeat the expectations. Okay, guys, what's the rule? You have to stay in your what at all times? Your chair. Good. And what about your hands? What do you have to do with your hands? Keep your hands to yourself. Okay, good. And then I'll ask each student, Alex, do you think you'll be able to follow this rule? And Alex goes, yes, I'll be able to. Okay, Alex, and what is it that you're going to do? I'm going to stay in my seat, and I'm not going to get up and hit instruments. Okay, good. So now you've made you verbalized in front of everybody, and it's clear what the expectation is. You write the rule down on the board. Let students know that they might forget the rule, and that's okay if they do. Look, guys, you get excited. This is really fun in here. You might forget the rule. That's okay. And I'll remind you of that rule by pointing to the board. So maybe the rule says, talking, banging, running. Those are the 3 common behavior issues. Kids won't stop talking, or they won't stop banging, or they can't keep their hands to themselves, or they get up and they want to run around. Can anyone think of anything else that they would add to some of the most common behavior issues? All right, if you think of one, let me know.
I think it's more with mine, just hitting the drums. They can't stop hitting the drums.
The kid on the drums or the other kids want to hit?
Yeah, not the other ones, but sometimes.
Well,
but,
right.
Most part, it's the one that is playing drums, that song or whatever. But
well, and the problem with the kids on drums is they're not like everyone else who's plugged in the mixer where you can just turn them off.
Yeah.
So what I do with that? Well, first of all, is using the plastic brushes will help.
Yeah, we've used those.
And they break.
And it's can get a bit messy, but they do help quite a bit, just keeping the down. And most of the time, like, you look at them, you just stare at them and they'll stop.
Right.
Because they know they're just bored at that moment or something like that.
Yeah, and also so when I got a kid banging on drums, I'll say, you know what? I'm talking and you're banging. Remember what the rule is no banging when I'm talking. So why don't you, for now, put your drumsticks on the bass drum? Now, they'll grab it in a second, start banging again. The next step is hand the drumsticks over to me. And it will be an ongoing battle. That battle's not going to go away. Okay, here's an expression that I really like. One of my teachers said, she would always say, real rock stars do X. Well, these kids don't know what real rock stars do. She'd say, real rock stars always work together as a team. Real rock stars support each other. Real rock stars listen to their leader when their leader's talking. So I really like that, referring to the kids as rock stars. And then emphasize the importance of the student role. So that means, look at them. You're in our band. Our band is going to get up in 4 weeks and play in front of an audience. And our band will fall apart if you don't get up there and play your part. the way you're supposed to do it. We need you, Adam. We need you to hold the band together as our drummer. So when we play the song, if you start banging, the music's going to fall apart and we're not going to sound good. Adam, do you want the band to sound good in concert? Adam says, yes, I do. Okay, good. In order for us to get there, this is what I need from you. Do you think you can do that? Yes, I think I can do that. Okay, good, Adam. So there's, just kind of laying out these expectations. Any questions or things you want to add at this point, anybody? Adam, your camera looks really good, by the way. You got, I don't know if that's lighting you got, but
Took me 20 minutes to figure out how to turn it on, but looks okay now.
is that that's on
My
your
nice
laptop?
backdrop, I think, isn't it?
Very nice.
Yeah, we just had our graduation last week for the little group band.
Oh,
So they
very
got the
nice.
pictures down all up there, and we haven't taken it down yet. It'll be up for another 2 months probably.
And everyone's going, man, for a guy who lives in London, he sounds more Canadian than British. There apparently is a London in Canada, so they tell me.
Equally as impressive.
Right. Okay, warnings and consequences. If you are going to warn kids, and if you are going to, I don't want to say threaten them, but lay out a consequence, you better follow through. For those of you who have kids of your own, you know the importance of that. If you say, hey, if you do that again, X is going to happen, and they do it again, and you don't follow through, they kind of go, aha, they are testing your authority now. And they're figuring out this guy is all talk. Taking a break. So let's say, I don't love the term timeout. So I'd always say taking a break. So let's say, Emily keeps banging on the keys. Emily, if I really need you to stop banging on the keys like that, it could break the instrument, and then nobody will be able to play. You don't want that to happen. I don't want that to happen. I turn around, boom, she's banging again. Emily, listen, if I have to tell you not to do that again, you're going to have to take a short little break. I turn around, she does it again. All right, Emily, we're going to play the song again, but I'm turning you off. You're just going to take a break. So now we work on the song for a couple minutes, and Emily's sitting there and she's not playing. Punitive, yes, but I came through I gave her warnings. I told her what the consequence would be, and I made good on it. Emily keeps banging on the keyboards. Emily, if that happens again, I'm going to have you sit outside for a couple minutes with Mom. And something I would say what do I always say to kids? I'd always say, I can't think of it now, but it always scare them. I can't remember what it is, but I would say, okay, you're going to have to take a break and sit out with Mom. And sure enough, if she does it again, open the door. Hey, Emily's mom, not a big deal. Just having some, challenges with Emily right now. I want her just to take a 2-minute break, just kind of relax a little bit, maybe get some water. I'm going to open the door in a couple of minutes, and I'm going to invite her back in. So the band plays for a little bit. I open the door. Hey, Emily, Emily's out there crying now. Talking, that's terrible. Hey, Emily, we'd love to have you come back in the group. We really miss having you. I just re-established her status. We miss you. We want you as a part of our group. And she comes back in. And if she does it again, guess what? Emily, bye. You got to go for the day. That's it. That's hard for a lot of teachers to follow. Anyone have any stories or they want to share or questions about that or feelings or thoughts they have about of removing a kid for the remainder of the class?
I've got a quick one. This isn't related to Kidzrock, but I had to kick a kid out of private lessons at one point. And the parents were mortified, and so that pretty much solved the problem going forward. Any other time that kid, started acting up, I said, Gabe, are we going to have a problem today? Nope. That was it, So whatever happened after I kicked him out, his dad talked to him, and that cleared up the problem. So that's kind of been my experience is if you do follow through, like you're saying, Dave, and you make it this big deal, the kids get it, and the parents make sure that the kids get it.
Right. And well, and I could see how in the case of this kid that you kicked out, it could really maybe be scary for the instructor to do. But it really is in the child's best interest. You know, these parents, they want their kids to learn about consequences with their behavior. I guarantee you those kids that are acting up in class, they're acting up even more at home. And the parents are battling with them and they're making threats and they're trying to punish them so they learn their lessons. And when they can see it happen in the controlled setting of your music school, I think the parents really appreciate that life lesson. So I think as long as the studio, and I'm going to get into this in a minute, but the studio has a process for escalating behavior and identifying when is it appropriate to ask a child to leave for the day. Because if you're teaching Kidzrock and you're like, this kid's ruining your class, the teacher should have the authority on their own to say, you know what, I need you to take a break for the rest of the class. And they shouldn't have to run it up, to the office to get approval on it. As long as the management has let their Kidzrock or Junior Rockerz instructors know. And not even those, I mean, look, this comes up with teenagers too, where they have to leave the group for the day. I want to get to what Emily said regarding boredom. When a kid is getting bored in Kidzrock or Junior Rockerz, there's one of two things going on. One is you got to ask yourself, is the kid too advanced for the program? Are they bored because they're picking up quicker than everybody else? And if the answer is yes, then I would look at either moving that kid into private lessons or moving them, like if it's a Kidzrocker and they're 6, move them into Junior Rockerz. That's fine. I've had 6-year-olds in Junior Rockerz before. Typically, the most common source of boredom in class is that the teacher is not remaining focused on the entire group, that they're spending too much individualized time with kids. And the secret to teaching Kidzrock and Junior Rockerz effectively is to be able to include the whole group in the process. So let's say, John is really struggling with his producing a clean B. Meanwhile, Carly on the keyboards you can just open up the Kidzrock music and she can sight read it. And that happens. Okay, so, John needs some extra attention. Carly's got it. What I will do then is I'm going to include everyone in the process so we can help John. So I'll say, okay, Adam on drums. Let me hear your green drum and blue drum and green drum and blue drum one time. Whack. Okay, Carly on keys. Let me hear you play your red B and green D. Good. Now, John, let me hear your red B and get your thumb just behind the fret, and I'm going to spend 10 seconds more with you. That whole thing was a setup so I could work with John. But meanwhile, I kept everybody else engaged. If kids feel like they're invisible for more than like 15 to 30 seconds, that's when that bad behavior starts breaking out. That's when boredom starts to set in. Emily, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Nope, that's it.
Yeah, and I think that's it's, if a teacher comes to you and says, this kid's bored, is this kid too advanced musically? And if so, let's look at some options. And then you got to look at how the teacher's teaching. The most common teaching, I'll say error, but issue that I'm seeing Kidzrock teachers especially having is they start honing in on a kid too long. And the best way to get these kids to play and to sound good is just say, everyone, let's just vamp on B, on that B minor chord, and don't stop them. And we're going to play it. We're going to play it 24 times. I'm going to count. So you're going to, maybe every like 4 bars, you shout out the number. They can relax in their brain because you laid out the expectation. We're going to play that B minor chord 24 times. I'm going to count. You can relax. Let the kids trip up. Poor John's really struggling with getting a clean B. Meanwhile, Carly on the keys is going, yeah, this is cool. I'm playing in time. I don't care how good you are, it always feels good to play music in time. Whatever you can do to get your kids to be up playing in time, they're going to have a good time. And you should spend most of the time having them play in time. How many times can you get the word time in a sentence? So, okay, so let's move onward to style and delivery. These sometimes, first of all, as a Kidzrock instructor and junior Rockerz instructor, if I had bad behavior, I would always say to myself, I'm doing something wrong as a teacher. I've got to do something different. It's me. And usually I was right. There was some adjustment that I had to make. So these are some different ways to being an effective, really just group instructor. Humor and games. Those are easy ways. So I am an uncle, and I use lots of bad uncle jokes when I'm in class. One thing I would do with Kidzrock is I would always try to like talk in rhymes. And the rhymes would be terrible, and they'd fail miserably half the time. Every time I'd start doing it, the kids would pay attention. All right, guys, we're going to play a song. All right, band, I need you to play along. Emily, let's have a seat. And then I need you to play a beat. And I would just keep trying to roll out these rhymes. I mean, that was terrible, like 1978 style rhyming patterns there. But the kids would pay attention. Games. Okay, I need raise your hand if you are going to see the Avengers movie this weekend. And I'll say that in a completely irrelevant moment. It has nothing to do with what's happening in the moment, but I'll do it to pull the kids in. Constantly asking, one thing I did is I had, and it was a junior Rockerz group, I had each kid come up with a stage name based after a food that started with the first letter of their name. So my name is Dave. So my stage name for that day would have been dog food. And I would always refer to the kid by their food name. And they loved that. They just actually this group for the remainder of the semester only wanted to be called by their food name. Address the class, avoid individual attention. That's kind of something I was talking about earlier, is always trying to go, okay, how can I talk to everybody? Even though the problem is Emily isn't feeling that beat. I'm going to go, okay, Joe, play your red A. He strums it once. Okay, Carly, play your A and C sharp. She presses down. Emily's my problem. Emily, I want to hear your blue drum and cymbal. And can you play slow, faster, faster, slow? Emily's trying. She's struggling. Hey, Joe, let me hear your red A again. Oh, so now everyone's kind of paying attention because they're seeing at any moment, in any given moment, I'm going to call them out. And that high energy and that kind of tension you create by doing that helps keeps the kids engaged. Also, changing the volume of your voice can have a huge impact. Changing how you talk will get them to listen. And as everyone's making noise, and I start talking like this, I'll say, if you can hear me, raise your hand. If you can hear me, raise your hand. And no one can hear me because they're too loud, but one kid looks at me and sees I'm moving my lips, and that kid stops and they hear, and boom, the hand goes up. And then another kid looks at, why is she raising her hand? And then it gradually gets quiet and all the hands are up. And I'm talking in this quiet voice. Guys, remember the rule. I go back to the board. When I'm talking, I need you to listen. And what's happening right now? Are you guys talking or listening? And they'll answer in a quiet voice. We're talking. We should be listening. Okay, good. Let's try this again. Whenever the class gets chaotic, you've got to call order. You've got to get order. It can't be, hey, stop, 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 hey, stop. That never works. You've got to, invest 30 or 60 seconds and get them completely chilled out. The kids got sugar in their bloodstream and they're hyper. Even if it means I want everyone put their instruments down. Let's meet at the gathering drum. we're going to review our one rule. Oh, man. All right, let's go to the gathering drum and just stay in this very chilled, quiet voice. Next one says, hands up, sticks up, picks up. That's one of my teachers said that years ago, and I love that. It was his way of calling order. All right. Well, it was keyboards, hands up, drums, sticks up, guitars, picks up, and they'd all go up. And that was kind of his way of cueing them for the count off of the song. They all know that now the song's going to get counted off. Hands up, sticks up, picks up. Everyone's frozen. Okay, now get in the ready position, slow. And then tell them to get into the ready position and count it off. If you don't tell them to get in the ready position, they're going to keep their hands up in the air and you're going to count the song off and no one's going to play. Expressing disappointment. It's good to express disappointment, but not anger or frustration. I got to tell this one quick story. I've told it. You've maybe heard it before. We had this one boy who was so naughty in Kidzrock, and I had to turn to the wall and scream in silence because I was going to lose my mind. Actually, the boy wound up getting kicked out of the group. But I lost at that point. He won because I showed my anger and I showed my frustration. He didn't see, no one saw me doing this, but it was just like I was losing my mind. And but expressing disappointment is very effective because the kids, they don't want to disappoint you. That's not why they're acting up. They're acting up because they're trying to establish status in the social order. And so to pull a kid aside after class and go, look, you really let me down today. I really needed you to do this and to talk to the kid as an equal. I really value you in the class. And I was disappointed. I'm not angry, but I'm disappointed. That word will go a long way. And then praise the kids for their good behavior. So let's say Adam is really just out of control today. And the moment Adam shows me any sign of good behavior, hey, Adam, thanks so much for just being patient. I really appreciate how when I was working with Emily, you were just kind of quiet and you sat there. And then you got to make sure that kid who's always behaving, because we all have those kids too, that you're praising them all the time, that you're giving them as much, maybe even more attention than the kids that are acting up. Any questions so far? Oh, who gets rewarded gets repeated. This is from Ruthie. What gets rewarded gets repeated. Yeah. I love that. What gets rewarded gets repeated. That is a great line, Ruthie. All right. Yeah, reward the positive. And even telling a kid over and over, stop, Emily, stop, Emily, stop. She's getting rewarded. She's getting, she's the center of attention. Sometimes I'll say to a kid, Emily, do you notice? Sorry, Emily, I keep picking on you. I'll say, Emily, do you notice that I keep saying your name? Do you know why I'm saying your name a lot? It's because I'm having a hard time getting you to point to the board, the rules. So I love that, Ruthie. That's a great line. Okay, let's move on. Escalating behavior issues. Every studio needs to have an escalation process. One of the most common issues that occurs is that the teacher doesn't want to escalate the behavior issue. The teacher wants to be perceived as a good person. And typically, well, here, this will be the escalation. Here, we'll go through this. Establish escalation procedures. Unruly behavior can drag the band down, and it can cost you customers. Identify the ringleader or ringleaders. Usually within a group, say of 5 kids that are having bad behavior, there's one kid who's stirring it up. You got to figure out who is that kid. That kid's giving the other kids a license to misbehave. So you want to find out who that kid is and deal with that. Maybe it's a couple kids. Usually what happens is one kid's being naughty, and then the other kids kind of go, well, he's going to get in trouble because he's clearly the ringleader, so I'm going to act up too. Alert management of problem students and actions taken. So if you ever have to give a kid a timeout in class, or he has to go out of the class to sit with mom, alert management, because you might have a problem kid in your class. Somebody, I don't know if they're on this call, but someone told me that they recently lost a couple students because of some behavior issues going on in one of their classes. They would have been better off removing that child. The parent with the problem child would probably have appreciated it too. If mom's not hearing from you, they just think everything's going great in there. Connect with the parents, ideally the day after class. So if you've got a kid who's acting up, alert management, and management should reach out to the parents, the next day. It's hard to kind of do it in the moment. It's hard, especially if you're a teacher, to talk to the parents if you've got a lesson that you've got to go to or another class. It's easy to forget about it and never let the parents know. And guess what? That kid comes back the next week, it's the same problem. And all the other parents are looking at this going, what is going on in this? This is not working for us. Put a behavior plan together with parents. What I do is I call a parent and go, hey, look, little Johnny's really acting up in class. Here's the behavior that we're seeing. What advice? I always say this, how would you advise us to handle this? And then you put a plan together. And usually the plan might be, okay, mom, remind Johnny before he leaves the car to come into Kidzrock what the expectation is. And then let Johnny know that you and I are going to connect after class to see how it went. So now he knows that, oh man, mom's going to get a report regardless. And I've seen some really just great improvements with that. And then a follow-up email to the parent to make them aware of how progress was or how behavior was in class that day. And ultimately, yes, you should remove the child permanently from the band if the problem does not improve. Any questions? Has anyone removed a kid from Kidzrock before? I have.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know if we just have like a group of parents who forget that kids are kids, but if we were to remove a kid from Kidzrock, and maybe I'm assuming here, but I don't think I am, the parents would say they aren't ready, we're quitting. We've had it's Kidzrock, but they want to go to junior Rockerz. The teacher said we're going to play without picks because he needed a little bit more of order and the kids to be able to fill the strings. This kid had a meltdown, and this mom is now just reacting, and she wants to switch, and it's just chaos. So how have you guys not had negative? How? I just don't understand.
So what I have found is that fortunately for us, that when we get a kid who's misbehaving in Kidzrock class, that they behave that way at school all day. And the parent usually knows about it. And by going to the parent early on in the problem and saying, look, we're having a problem with Johnny in class. For whatever reason, he doesn't stay in his chair, and he gets up and he wants to hit the cymbal all the time. Help us. What can we do? Because we are not child behavior experts. We are musicians. We are music education experts. So we should not be expected to, be able to manage problem children. We just don't have that type of training. So going to mom first, early on, for guidance is crucial, and staying connected with mom. And then saying to her, because what you don't want to do is say, Mom, we're pulling Johnny out of the band. Whoa, wait a minute. Where did this come from? To go, I have a mom to this day, I mean, her kid is now, he's probably 10, but she thanks me for kicking her son out of Kidzrock. But I got her to sign off on it. I said, look, this is continuing to happen. How do you feel, Mom, about if we remove him from the class, let him experience that personal disappointment, and then let's check in 6 months? And the mom loved it. And we kicked him out, and the kid was bawling, I won't do it again. I promise. Nope, he's out of the band. And 6 months later, We called him back up, and he came back in. And his mom, to this day, thanks me for that. Was such a great life lesson. It was right before the concert, too. He was devastated, but he was not getting the message that there are consequences. Now, there was a boy who he was spitting on the instruments, and I'm like, that's it. You're out. You're out. Or I had a boy who was being physically rough with some of the kids, and I kicked him out. Where it's like, those boys crossed the line. They crossed the line, and the moms were like, oh, come on, can't you? The moms push back because now they got to figure out what they're going to do with their kid now for this time. So, maybe in your policies you have something about kind of, you reserve the right to remove a child who's engaging in any of these types of behavior. But I think partnering with the parents early on and making that decision together can really help. By just saying, how would you feel about your child taking a break from the program, and then we check back in 6 months? Because Kidzrock is so unique. It's not like a soccer team. If you got a kid on the soccer team that doesn't want to participate and they just sit out there on the field, the game goes on. In Kidzrock, if you get one kid that's trying to sabotage it, the game does not go on. The game is a mess. And if you've got 3 or 4 kids that are really engaged and having fun, and one kid who's really being disruptive, it's in the best interest for your business. It's in the best interest for the other kids that the kid be removed, and it's in the best interest for that kid who's acting up to learn this life lesson. But it's tough.
Do the majority of your parents sit in the waiting room, or do they drop off?
I would say the younger they are, the more likely the parents are to stay on site.
Okay.
Kidzrock, I'd say they all do. Junior Rockerz, it's kind of hit or miss. Yeah, what I've never seen is a parent be in denial about their child's behavior. They maybe are in denial about the severity or how severe it is. But yeah, I've learned the hard way, if you blindside a parents with, where you want to take action against their child and they haven't heard anything about it. I think the best system that works is, mom, remind your kid before you drop them off what the expectation is, and let them know that you and I are going to connect after class. And if it goes well, take them out for ice cream. Give them some type of reward. Then the child, to kind of go back to what Ruthie says, now the child's going, you know what? Kind of like this, good behavior thing. I get these perks. Okay, so let's move on. Is that the end? That's the end of this amazing and entertaining slideshow. Any questions?
Yeah, I just have one question. Is there anything, because I'm brand new, is there anything in the onboarding process that kind of filters personality types and matching people and, getting ahead of the game before you even get them into a group?
Great question. I have never done this. I've always been on the fence about this, is to ask the question during the onboarding, does your child have any behavior issues that we should be aware of? I've thought a lot about it, and I never did it. And I think it would be good. I think what would not be good is to say, these are our expectations. Now you're coming out and you're sounding a little like stuffy and strict. I think it'd be better to say, because like in our summer camp, we asked, does your child have any, is your child on the spectrum or have any behavior issues that we should be aware of? Now, they might not be honest with you, but yeah, that's, I think, I'd be curious to see if someone did that and what kind of responses they get.
Well, I thought of testing just what's your child's personality like, at least you get a
Mm.
gauge of what they are. And if they're like, they're running around the house hitting any drum they can find, you at least know what they're kind of like. So
Yeah. Anyone have perfect pitch? What is that note? No. Is there anything that you would like our instructors to know about? Ooh, that's a Ruthie Smith question right there. Is there anything you would like our instructors to know about your musician? This may even include allergies and or behavior issues. I like that, Ruthie. What do you think of that, Alex? Or motivate? That's great. That's really good. And I tell you, I taught Kidzrock straight for years, and the more I did it, the better I got at getting what I wanted to get out of those kids. No, they're never going to be perfect. They're kids, but I found the more entertaining I was, the more of a ham I could be, the more games I could infuse into the class, the more questions, the more I can make the kids feel like if I turn my head for a second, Dave's going to call me out and ask me what my favorite place for vacation is. I always ask completely irrelevant questions that are going to make kids, laugh. Alex, if you could be any superhero, what would it be? Okay, Emily, let me hear your green drum. Alex, superhero, what would it be? Superman. Okay, Emily, let me hear your green and blue drums again. So it's just almost kind of frantic. That was my styles. I'd be fast, frantic, and firing questions off left and right. In my head, I knew I'm trying to get, Ruthie to play this rhythm right, but I'm going to be including everybody. I'm not going to include them in terms of dealing with Ruthie and her musical challenge. But yeah, anything else?
I've got one. I guess it kind of coincides with the boredom question, and it's honestly it's really specific. So I guess I'm just sort of Dave asking if you've got any suggestions. We've got one kid. He's 5 years old in Kidzrock. He's an exceptional drummer. Like he can play full beats. He can
Wow.
he can do fills. So the challenge then becomes how do we prevent him from getting bored in Kidzrock when he's clearly capable of everything else? However, like when we have him on the drum kit, for instance, on one hand we want to encourage his creativity and his growth, but the other kids are also relying on him playing that solid Kidzrock beat so that they can they can follow. Thoughts or suggestions on that?
I'm just curious, is this kid by any chance on the autism spectrum?
I'm 99% certain that he's an ASD kid. His parents actually have mentioned, he's got some speech issues, and they haven't had him officially evaluated yet. But my experience, I'm like pretty sure he is.
And I've had some, kids on the spectrum. I don't get it, but they're like hyper musical.
Yeah.
And they can be emotionally pretty volatile as well. I had a boy who was 5, just like this kid. He came in, and by the second rehearsal, he was playing proper rock beats. He had never taken a drum lesson. He just could figure it out in his head. And I pulled him out of Kidzrock and threw him into private lessons right away. Now, then the issue is, what are the social benefits for this child to be in Kidzrock?
Exactly. And he loves the group interaction, because the first day I saw this kid, I made a point of calling his parents the following week and just kind of getting their thoughts and essentially saying the same stuff. I don't know about putting him in private lessons because then he doesn't get the benefits of the band and playing with the group and the social stuff. So yeah, exactly. I hear you.
Yeah, I would, if he's not being disruptive, because the boy that we had that fit this profile is he wound up, his boredom was apparent. He was he would look at the music and he'd have the beat ready before I even turned to him.
Mm-hmm.
And we put him on keyboards, and he was like playing fifths on his own. He just would sound it out. And it's like, okay, like this kid. And so we said to the parent, you know, we gave him an option. He can stay in here. He does seem bored, or he can go into private lessons. And he did go into private lessons. So I think kind of showing some options for, you know, mapping out some options for the parents would be great. But if he's happy in there, you know, my biggest concern with a kid like that is that he's going to want to play those songs at faster tempos,
Right.
and the other kids aren't going to be able to handle that fast tempo. So, yeah, I'd let the parents decide.
Okay.
John, do you do junior rockers too?
No, we don't do junior rockers.
Dave, isn't there some songs in junior rockers that are the same as Kidzrock but with more detailed beat?
Yeah. So like, yeah, there are some songs that are identical. If you look at junior rockers, Kidzrock, songs 10 up to 23, you start seeing some crossover into junior rockers. And all you got to do is, you know, if your Kidzrock band director has the musical chops to go and start adding to, because, you know, yeah, in junior rockers, you always got, you know, 2 drum beats, 3 guitar parts, 2 keyboard parts to choose from. But most people, you know, if you got the musical chops, yeah, just go to your, you know, this kid and say, look, we're gonna add these eighth notes on the ride cymbal, and yeah, you're gonna write this, and they'll make little notes in the band director's binder as to what you're doing. Because what I found for me personally, when I was teaching Kidzrock and junior rockers, is I would throw a musical addition out to a kid in the band, and I'd forget about it the next week. So if the instructor just jots down a little note as to how to, you know, as to what they change. And same with junior rockers. I mean, sometimes you get a kid and those 2 drum beats aren't enough. If the kid needs a little extra, you know, spice to their playing. So I'll just kind of write in the kid's music, here, play this instead.
Right. Yeah. I mean, one strategy that we started using, and it seems to be working, but, you know, again, I'm trying to keep on top of it, is he's actually doing the Kidzrock drum beat on the kick drum, and then we're letting him, you know, play the snare and the ride and whatever else he wants. So he's locking in on that kick drum. So everyone else, and we've kind of instructed the other kids, hey, listen to that kick drum.
Right.
And it seems to be working now. But again, as this kid progresses, you know, I wonder, right, how long is it till he gets bored with that?
And how old is he? He's 5?
He's 5.
And how old are your youngest kids in your next band level?
Well, I guess he could move to there's a 6 and 7-year-old group. Are you talking about the other Kidzrock or like the other band?
Could he go into a band with, say, 8 and 9-year-olds? I mean,
Well, you know,
a little young.
That's the one thing that I kind of talked to his parents about, and was another concern, is to put him in a group with, you know, say like 8-year-old kids, when, again, I think he's probably ASD. His developmental level is like still at like a 4, maybe 3-year-old in terms of social skills, you know. So to put him in a group with like 8-year-olds, when socially he might be at like a 3 and 4-year-old level, then I think there's even bigger issues.
Yeah, no, for sure. And especially if he's on the spectrum, he's going to have, you know, some other social challenges. Right. So I think he's a kid to watch, and, you know, figure out when's it time to move him out or put him in a Kidzrock group with, you know, 6 and 7-year-olds.
Yeah.
For
right.
Sure.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone, any other questions, comments? Hope you guys found this helpful. You can, your teachers, you know, real quick story. I have this one teacher who was at my school. She kind of like, she's not a big personality, just kind of very mellow and chilled. I was a little nervous about putting her in Kidzrock. And man, she was like the kids whisperer. She got these kids to behave. And I thought they were going to like tie her up with duct tape the first day and like light the room on fire because she's just so sweet and so passive. But she found for her those strategies that work. And your teachers need to find their strategies. They have to be true to themselves. I mean, I was a total like goofball in class, and that might not be the style for your teacher, but they just got to experiment, try to find some different strategies, and be very clear as to what they expect from the kids. You guys, thank you so much. I will post this up in the Facebook group, and we can, certainly do another one of these behavior management trainings again. And next time I should have my wife come on board because she'll work her therapist voodoo on you and give you some good tools to work with. You guys have a great day. Go play some music. Take care, guys.